Welcome to the DynastyVipers ViperCast. This is episode 20, and as usual, I got my oldest son with me, Kelvin, and we got Roberto there bringing the smoothness to the ViperCast tonight.
Damn right.
Son, what do you have to say for yourself?
Well, it was a rough week here in South Louisiana, LSU. You know, look, they returned five starters, but like two of them were sick or injured or hurt or something. So LSU did not have a good start to their season. That was a rough deal. And then the Packers blew us out, obviously. So sorry, we couldn't help you out to be the only 3-0 team in Chicago there, Roberto. We tried. Just not quite enough left in Drew Brees, I don't think.
Well, man, first off, you lost to Mississippi State, okay? It's not like you lost to Alabama or something. The champ went down by Mississippi State.
Hey,
okay?
Mike Leach is legit.
Is he legit, or have you guys just gone down that quickly?
So seriously, out of our starting 22, 5 returned. Only three of them played in this game. So that's tough. I mean, you knew it was going to be a tough season. Number 6 was always aggressive. That it was going to be hard to put that together. So I don't know. I'm disappointed, but you can't take last year away. So we're good.
Well, what I'm trying to say is teams like Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State lately, even after they've won a national championship, they've at least been in the conversation the next year. Mississippi State.
None of those teams had as many people drafted as the LSU Tigers of 2019. None of those Alabama teams. Just let the record show.
Well, I just want the record to show that Joe Burrow's gone from a perfect record to a perfect record the opposite direction now.
Hey, he looks good, though.
He still looks good.
Yeah, he does.
Don't matter. He's still from LSU. I can't. Jamarcus Russell ruined LSU quarterbacks for me permanently. There's no going back from that.
You can't even bring up Jamarcus. Come on.
Oh,
Coach.
I can.
And Justin Jefferson. Hey, don't forget about him.
Yeah, he finally had a game. How's that Clyde Edwards-Helaire thing working out?
Good. One of the few running backs in the league with 200 rushing yards and 100 receiving yards. So I think there's 3 of them, including him.
There goes Calvin again doing his homework.
I know. It's no fun when he actually does his homework.
Just spitting out stats. You see him?
You know what? And the worst part is, because I do so little homework and I know he does so much, he can literally spit out just about anything. I'll believe he actually researched it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely garbage.
Yeah. Hey, that's true. It's like the presidential debate.
That's right.
Oh, man. Okay, first off, I'm not going to get political. Because that's not what this show's about. This show's about a Canadian, me, watching whatever the heck that was that I watched. And trying to keep a straight face and trying to figure if I should be laughing or crying. I don't know which way to go on this. It was like I think I used the word on Twitter, a beautiful disaster. Because I don't know what to say.
Both emotions would have been fine.
Yes.
That's exactly how I treated it. I thought it was going to be a shit show from the beginning. But I was prepared for the comedy. It was hilarious 15 minutes in. It was hilarious throughout. But then at the end of the day, you sit there and you can't help but shed a tear. Because you realize, holy hell, these are our two. These are the 2 candidates that we have to run to be president of the United States. I mean, this is what it's come to.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that Will Ferrell and Zach Galifianakis or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
They had that grudge match. I think it was no, not grudge match. You know the one with politics. Yeah. I'm going to do my homework. What was it? Someone, if anyone's chiming in, I'm Googling it right now.
Will Ferrell?
Yep.
And Zach Galifianakis, I can't even.
Yeah, they're both politicians running for Senate.
While you're looking that up, another thing.
Yes. I don't remember the name, but I know where you're going.
The campaign where Will Ferrell ends up sleeping with Zach's wife and video recording it and playing it out. That's what this is reminding me of right now. Like it feels like a bad comedy show right now. It's like Grumpier Old Men meets The Campaign.
Yeah.
It's like
I had not to turn it into, we won't turn it into a political thing, but yeah, it was funny because I had a lot of people on my social media stuff like Facebook and all that, and I basically told everybody, I was like, whichever one you support, I go, don't talk glowingly about any of them, neither one, don't say nothing. All you can do is just sit there and be embarrassed for what we just witnessed last night, because it was funny. But at the end of the day, these are two real candidates, and you got to cry about it, because it's oh my god, it's comical. It's comical how bad it is, really.
Yeah, all it's missing is someone punching a baby. Like I said, watch The Campaign. If you haven't watched it, that's what this is turning into right now. The Campaign.
Yeah. There's a really cool video going around that has, I don't know, the technology is awesome, but it showed both candidates with but they look like toddlers, like they look like they're literal babies, and they still have the same voice, and they're arguing and all that. It's
hey man, that's pretty much accurate. When I got to we're at about 30 minutes into that debate yesterday, and I was like, man, you know what? I would prefer to watch, just sit there and actually watch my kids' second grade Zoom class, which that would have been. I mean, they act better than those two guys did last night.
Well, all I was thinking is I want to vote for this mediator because he did a fantastic job just trying to keep that together. You had one guy going, "This whole show," and you had the other guy going.
Oh man, that was fun. Anyways,
but anyway, no one's here for us to get political, especially a Canadian making fun of everything down there. So
right,
we're here to talk Week 4. But before we get into Week 4, we go to everyone's favorite portion of the show. It's our hits and misses from Week 3. Calvin, man, you sucked in Week 3, man. You were on a roll. You were on a hot streak there with some hits. Higby. Yeah. Naheem Hines in Week 1, and then did you even hit on anything in Week 3?
Give me a minute. I'm still trying to think through. There might have been something that I hit on. You know what I will say is, man, Josh Allen looks fantastic. And preseason, I had him ranked number 6, and almost everywhere that got brought up, that seemed very high. And honestly, like now it kind of looks low. And I started to think through, obviously he's had some pretty decent matchups the first 3 weeks. The Raiders this weekend actually are a pretty tough matchup. So I think this will kind of be the litmus test. Like, is he going to be a guy that I moved him up to 5? Is he going to stay like right there? But I think
so you have him one spot behind Mitch Trubisky right now?
Right. And
Nick Foles.
BDN, of course. This weekend, like, I think he could vault up to where we're talking about him as maybe as high as number 2. I mean, if he goes out and has another 30-point game, 35-point game, like we could be saying like it's Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen.
I think this week's
whoa.
Well,
what about Russell?
Russell definitely needs to be some talking to. But as far as Lamar Jackson goes, Allen's outproduced in the last 2 weeks. So I definitely think Allen's got to be in that consideration. And right now, for me, if we're talking MVP voting, as far as the National Football League is concerned, not so much fantasy, I got Russell Wilson and then Jake Allen right there, my MVP voting.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot, so don't listen to me because, whatever. But going back to Jake Allen, I think you mentioned the Raiders game here. I think this is a good test to see where both these teams are. The Raiders kind of got slapped in the mouth there last week by the Patriots. So this is going to be our first real look at where the Bills stack up against the Patriots team with a common opponent 1 week apart. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this is a true sign of who the Raiders are because it sounds like they're going to be without Ruggs again, their burner. So I don't think that's going to give us a good idea of where the Raiders are. But I think this is going to give us a good idea how the Bills and Patriots are going to kind of stack up for going forward. Because that's where that AFC East division is going to come down to.
just to be clear, that's dynasty rankings, and the only knock with Russell Wilson, he's 31 years old. So he's got 8 years, 7 years on
15
on
years.
Josh Allen. But yes,
15 years left.
Yeah. So.
Come on, Russell's got. He's in his. I mean, come on. He's in a quarter. I mean, look at Breeze and. Well, no, let's not talk about Breeze.
Yeah, let's not talk about Breeze. So, you want me to do my misses too, or just the hits?
Well, hang on.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, the campaign.
You guys got the sound over there?
Mm-mm.
Actually, no, I'm not getting the sound there.
No.
That's enough. It took me a while to find it, so I spent the time I got to put it up there. So, I lost our one viewer that we had. So I think I did my job there.
Sorry, Grandma.
Man, my family's so disappointed in me. Oh, well, anyway, yeah, we were just talking. You got Jake Allen above Russell Wilson going forward in your dynasty rankings, maybe not your redraft rankings. Although, you know what? If you told me you had Jake Allen above Russell Wilson, I wouldn't give you too much grief. If you had Russell Wilson above Jake Allen, I wouldn't give you too much grief in redraft. So I think that's more of a testament how far Allen has come, Josh Allen, how far Josh Allen has come than how anything else has happened more. So I think he's improved that much this year. Plus having Diggs out there with John Brown, giving him another viable wide receiver. The Bills are doing for Josh Allen what the Jets should have been doing for Sam Darnold.
Yes. Well, yeah. And the best thing they could do for Sam Darnold right now is get rid of Adam Gase. He has never made anyone better.
That is also true.
They love him, though, for some odd reason.
So what did you? So you didn't really have hits, misses. What do you got? Sorry, I kind of get sidetracked here today. So
Yeah.
I know you did your homework here.
No, well, so that's I had to really reach deep in there for a hit, but the misses are easier to find. Drew Sample was awful. In fact, it seemed like T. Higgins maybe became the de facto tight end there for whatever reason in Cincinnati, and came away with 2 touchdowns. He looked amazing, but I started Drew Sample in too many places on a hunch last week. And Josh Kelly, man, I thought Josh Kelly was absolute must start. They had given him 25 carries the week before. Carolina had given up the most amount of fantasy points to a running back. On paper, it seemed like the absolute best thing. But remember, fantasy football is not played on paper. Wait. Okay, maybe it is.
It kind of is, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it is. But football's not. And so, Josh Kelly, not a great day.
What about you there, Roberto? What'd you hit? What'd you miss?
It's not really. I really didn't go in with too many guys that I was looking to hit on and stuff like that. It's more overall disappointment. My guy Joe Mixon is killing me, man.
Joe Mixon. I was watching the open bar last night with Jay Mike, and they were doing the top juices. They're doing the 101 to 106 of juices, and someone compared Joe Mixon to orange juice after you brush your teeth. That's Joe Mixon. You know what I mean? You got that. It all looks good. You just finished brushing your teeth. You're looking at some orange juice. You're like, man, this looks pretty good. This would be good. And you put it in your mouth. That's Joe Mixon right now. It's like, oh, whoa, what am I watching out there?
And I still believe in the talent. What he's doing behind that offensive line is still pretty damn good. I mean, when you break down his, yards, evaded tackles, and yards created, he's still up there with the elite guys. I thought that with Burrow, I know that the offense. I'm trying to be patient because again, new quarterback, a rookie quarterback, usually you're gonna stack the line a little bit more, force them to make throws, force them to show you that they can do it, beat you through the air. I know they had 2 new starters on the offensive line, so I know that they're working through that. There was no preseason. You didn't have your regular training camp, so I'm trying to be patient. And but man, he needs a good game coming up here. And the thing is with him, the last few years he's always started off slow and then kind of goes on a big run in the second half. I'm anticipating that he's going to probably do the same thing this time around. But that's the guy that when it comes to dynasty, so many people are torn on. I'm still a big believer. I'm a mixing truther, and I know there's a lot of people that dislike him. So, and as a Bears fan, I thought Mitchell was going to do something against those Falcons, man. So that was
that's what I was waiting on. That's the biggest miss for the whole show, right there.
That didn't work out after you talked them up last week too. What happened? Number 4 quarterback in the NFL, right? I mean, it's behind. We knew that.
Well, I think as a whole, the industry in general missed on both Trubisky and Gardner Minshew, who had great matchups last week, and neither of them performed to what the expectation is. I think 90% of the industry itself was expecting Trubisky and Gardner Minshew to put on a solid performances against both the Dolphins and the Falcons there, and neither one of those materialized. Look at me using big words. Yeah, I did my homework too, Calvin.
Good for you. Nice work. Good for you.
That's all I get is good for you. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. Trubisky is a miss. Gardner Minshew, I thought they were both going to perform well. Who'd you hit on? Did you have Jimmy Graham in your lineup?
I actually did. In one of my lineups, I went with Jimmy Graham. I mean, you gotta, that they're gonna, when they get to the red zone, man, you're gonna look for that big target, right? So Jimmy was one that I actually hit on and actually liked him going in. I liked most of the Bears. I mean, I thought the Bears were going to be able to put up points. They did, but when Foles came in, basically. So we'll see if this. I know Calvin, he's been bringing up Anthony Miller. It'll be interesting to see now that Foles is in, what the changes they make on offense. I mean, they were really running a lot of 12 personnel with Mitch back there. They were more of a run-heavy team, a lot of bootlegs and things of that nature. I wonder with Foles in there, they're going to run more 3 wide, 4 wide receiver sets, which obviously is going to help somebody like Anthony Miller. So I'm really excited about this week to see what changes they're making on offense.
Well, I'm kind of wondering here too, because you want to support Mitch Trubisky, and the best way to support a good quarterback is maybe giving him some wide receivers to throw the ball to. But if you're in 12 personnel, that's telling me you're trying to protect him and you want to run the ball. How is a quarterback going to look good when he's supposed to be handing the ball off, and then all of a sudden Nick Foles comes in, also you're going to go to 3 wide? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The one thing I want to keep an eye on here in regards to Anthony Miller is when the Bears started getting ahead in games, Miller wasn't on the field. Mm-hmm. Miller's had his success when they've been trailing and in that throwing kind of offense. So I want to see going into week 4 what the Bears do with their offense if they're in the lead. I'm not quite comfortable enough starting Anthony Miller right now. We're going to talk about this in a little while here in regards to the preview show here on who they're all playing, and because I want to break down each individual matchup this week. And if they get ahead in the game, I don't know if Anthony Miller is going to be relevant. But if they're behind, I think Nick Foles is going to go out there and start swinging, and we're going to see that offense start to fire up again.
Well, you're going to see a different offense with Nick Foles. I think Nagy went in the offseason and really tried to tailor the game plan to help Mitch, which involved getting the running game going. So I think that's the reason you were seeing a lot of that 12 personnel on there. When they got down against the Lions, they went into they had that fourth quarter comeback. They went more to a 3 wide receiver set.
And Mitch had success doing that.
He did. But I actually, watching the game this past week, I felt that benching coming. I didn't think it would happen, but after exactly when he threw that pick, I don't know if you guys are aware of the game. He threw a pick, and that's what in the third quarter, after Atlanta went down and scored a touchdown. And the next drive, he throws an interception. And as soon as he threw the pick, I had that feeling. It was just the misses that he was – the thing that's been that Mitch has been struggling with the last few years has been when the opportunities have been there for big plays, he just hasn't been able to make the plays. And against the Falcons, there were 2 plays in the first half where he had Anthony Miller open for a touchdown, and I think he had him. I can't think of who the other. It might have been Mooney or something in the first half too for another big play, and he just overthrew him. And you just felt like the camera would pan over to Nagy, and you could feel that frustration. Like, man, we gotta hit those. So when he threw that pick in the third quarter, I just had a sense. I was like, well, if he's gonna bench him, this might be where he's gonna bench him. And lo and behold, I see Nick Foles standing there with his visor on his helmet, ready to go in. So I think he understood that Mitch with that type of game plan he's going to struggle with it. He just is. He was trying to tailor the game plan to help him, but the lack of accuracy on those deep throws and not making those plays when they're there to be made, you could just tell he was like, all right, that's enough. We can't keep doing this.
Mm-hmm. So then that kind of brings me to my hits and misses. Obviously, we talked John Trubisky and Garner Minshew. A couple other of my misses were more injury relevant than anything. John Brown. I went back to John Brown. He had that strained calf. We really need to get Jeff on here and sort through all these injuries here with the Dynasty Vipers.
Yeah, really
Jeff in here. And the other one I missed on, that I was my hit of the week kind of thing, was Russell Gage. Russell Gage with Julio out of the lineup with a hamstring injury. I thought Russell Gage was going to go off, and then Russell Gage finds himself in the injury room. So I really got dinged on a couple of my big picks there due to injury. But my man crush, he lit it up again on Thursday Night Football. Mr. Robinson, welcome to his neighborhood. We're all just here to enjoy it. Everyone knows I'm a huge small school fan when it comes to football. And I love finding these small school kids and watching their film. And Robinson was going different. And he was already on the map because another one of my fan favorites for me personally, Marshawn Copperidge out of Illinois State, kind of put Illinois State on the map for me. So when I started hearing good things about what Robinson was doing, I started really focusing on him. I really liked him as a player. But even I couldn't have thought how well he's going to do here. But I actually benched Terry McLaurin last week for Robinson going into that matchup. A, because it was a nice matchup, and B, because it's brand. I got to stick to brand, right? You got to stick to your brand. And Robinson, I'm going to ride him out as long as I can because I think he's gotten the volume. He's going to continue getting the volume that Leonard Fournette had. That's not going to be the question. And he's already scored more rushing touchdowns than Fournette had all last year too, which is huge for him. But now I'm turning my attention on to week 4 and beyond. And one of the guys, I was going to save this for the week after, for week 5, but I think it's important that you go out there and get him now, because I think he's going to be ready to roll by week 5 from what I've been reading on the internet, because we know everything on the internet is true. But I am going to go out there and make sure my boy, Vincent Smith of the New York Jets, is on my roster, because no one else on that Jets team can catch a ball. Braxton Berrios is starting to look like a fantasy relevant player on the Jets because there's no one else there. Vincent Smith, I'm looking forward to him week 5. And I will think of a week 4 guy as we go around the floor. But, Calvin, what do you got? Who you rolling out? Who's your big hit?
Who's my big hit for coming up for this week?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go a slightly different direction. I'm not sure I can top the depth of Vincent Smith there. So I'm going to go a little bit slightly different direction, and I'm going to talk about a struggling second-round pick that I think is due for this has got to be the stretch of games where he shows up, and that's Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake has not been great to start this season, but the matchups really have not been super favorable for him. This past week against Detroit, they actually had given up a lot of points to running backs, but a lot of that was Green Bay, and I think Green Bay is just going to do that to a lot of teams this year. They just look like a juggernaut, and Aaron Jones kind of went off on that. Kenyon Drake has the Carolina Panthers, the New York Jets, and then the Dallas Cowboys, who on paper they actually haven't allowed that many fantasy points to running backs, but they just haven't really played anybody either. So I think there's a lot to look forward to here for Kenyon Drake. There's a lot of questions about whether he was real or not in that first stretch last season, at the end of the year where he actually did very well. A lot of people took him high, including me. I got a few shares of Kenyon Drake, but this is not the week to bail. Don't bail on him just yet. He's got a really good few games, and if he can capitalize on it, maybe you say, okay, that's it. I don't trust him. I'm going to sell high, but don't sell him yet.
All right. Who you got, Roberto?
So that's sell him. No, I'm just
Sell him?
So, for week for this upcoming week.
Yeah.
So one I'm really liking is Devin Singletary.
That's where I was going to go on for mine. Yep. I agree with this one.
I think this is with the injuries behind him. I think he's going to get a nice workload this week. I think it's going to be not high scoring, but the workload's going to be there. He's a guy that he's shown that he can handle it, so we'll see. But that's the one that I'm expecting with a full workload, that he'll put up some nice numbers this week.
I can't even disagree. I was looking at that right now. I think it's something like 26 or 28 in the league in rushing right now. Mm-hmm. So they're definitely a bit softer there. Zach Moss has an opportunity here too. We all know with the Buffalo Bills, you have to respect the speed and route running abilities of both John Brown and Stephon Diggs there. And Gabriel Davis there, he's come on as a fantastic number 3 option there. Has been producing as well. So they've got a full arsenal there. We talked about Josh Allen and the weapons he has. And this Raiders defense is still pretty new to each other. There was a lot of turnover. We talked about this here previous weeks. New linebackers. Corey Littleton's been a bit of a disappointment for fantasy purposes in IDP right now. Nicholas Morrow has been playing fantastic. Again, fantasy purposes. Kwiatkowski, he's been out. They've been getting some good production from their interior line. I want to say Hurst has been doing well. Like everyone on that front has been doing pretty good for the Raiders. Farrell and Max Crosby on the edges has been a little disappointing. They haven't got the sack numbers that Crosby was getting last year, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on here. I like Singletary, and I even like Moss. Moss has a good chance to come back this week. I think he started practice again today. So those are some guys to keep an eye on. I'm going to take a swing for the fences here. Running backs have been going down like you wouldn't believe. I like Mike Davis again this week. I just like what his role is with Carolina. He's been more than just a runner. He's more of a pass catcher. He's basically doing what McCaffrey was doing. He's like a poor man's McCaffrey, so to speak. But I also like, and this makes me almost feel dirty right now, but I think Devontae Freeman could do something this week. He's someone I'm kind of keeping an eye on. Now, he's definitely more of a flex play, but the Rams, they're an 18 to 20 as far as the rush defense goes themselves. They're not exactly a powerhouse when it comes to the run game. The Giants need Freeman to get involved. They gave him 5 touches last week, 5 carries. He only got 10 yards, so nothing to be writing home. This was his first action in quite some time. I'm thinking Devontae Freeman is going to get you some yards here against the Rams this week. So that's my kind of swing for the fences. I'm so desperate because my running backs are banged up. Let me just pray that Freeman does something, pick.
So some people might say, hey, he only got 5 carries, but another person might say he led the team in carries, which he did. It's really clear that they they didn't just bring him in to be insurance. That they plan on turning that role over to him. And I really like what you said too about Mike Davis. That's the biggest thing that jumped out. I wasn't sure what his role was going to be. 8 targets the week before and not a lot of carries. I just kind of thought, man, they didn't really know what to do with him. But he basically just slotted in and played the position that McCaffrey does. And it doesn't seem like they did change up very much in terms of the play calling or what they expected him to do. They said, hey, next man up. And that man was Mike Davis. And you're not going to necessarily get, obviously, Christian McCaffrey numbers, but I think you're right. I think he's if you spend money on him on the waivers, based on everybody we've spent fab money on so far, he might be the best one we've spent money on. There's been a lot of misses these first few weeks.
And the thing with Freeman is game script got completely taken away from him there. San Francisco jumped on the Giants early and often, and that game got out of hand really quick. So, there's a reason why 5 carries led the Giants in the backfield. But his snap count, he was getting the snaps too, so which is pretty good for a guy who's only had a couple days of practice behind him.
But by the way, you want to hear the craziest stat that I heard this week? San Francisco blew the Giants out. 40% of their salary cap was playing in that game. 60% was out. They only had 40% of their salary cap playing in that game. They were on the road, and they blew the Giants out. That is embarrassing. That's worse than anything that.
That said, the Rams are my lock of the week because I think they're going to do to the Giants what the 49ers did to the Giants, but that's not here or there. So we've got our hits, we got our misses. I should really write this down, but I'm not going to because that involves like doing homework and paperwork. I'll let Calvin do that kind of stuff. But let's kind of do a little bit of a cruise control through the Week 4 schedule here, starting with the Thursday night football game tomorrow night. We're already Thursday night football, and I'm trying to decide if I want to watch a rerun of the presidential debate or the Denver Broncos versus the New York Jets game. Now, it's obvious I'm going to watch the Broncos and Jets, but is there anything really worth watching here? Calvin, you did your homework. You got the Viper strike action going. Did you even do any studying of this Broncos and Brett Rippon-led Broncos team versus the wide receiver running back list New York Jets?
Well, look, we got something to look forward to with Vincent Smith, obviously. Your Alabama guy. Hey, that's definitely something.
My boy Vincent Smith is still at least week 5 away, and he's from Limestone College in South Carolina.
Okay, all right. Not gonna get to see him. So what we actually have to do is we got to look for a really, really good wide receiver, and that's KJ Hamler. And he is a guy that I'm excited to watch. He's been on the field a lot. He had 7 targets in his first action, 5 in this past one. Now, obviously, the quality of targets is not very good right now because he's catching passes from Jeff Driscoll and Brett Rippon. But this is one of those weird things where you could get a situation where Brett Rippon is very much an unknown. We see this every now and then. You get a quarterback who's an unknown, comes out, the defense doesn't have a lot that they can go on, and it's a short week. There's not a lot of preparation time. So there could be more fireworks than you're thinking. And that Denver defense has not necessarily been very good. It would be just like a Denver-New York Jets Thursday night matchup to be the most exciting matchup of the year, right? Like this is 2020. It just seems like that's the thing that's going to happen.
Well, it's setting up for a Braxton Berrios game again. I mean, they have nobody. I mean, Perriman is still, I think, out. I mean, right? Crowder, I don't think he's playing or what the deal is there. But oh my God, I mean, that matchup. I'm just looking. I'm looking at the young guys in that. I mean, Noah Fant, obviously, I love him. We'll see how Ripken looks when he's out there with those guys. Jerry Jeudy, those are. I'm going to pay attention to the young guys on the Jets. I haven't really watched much of them this year. I feel like Darnold is a good quarterback. I mean, I know he's not perfect, and I see some of the mistakes he makes, but god dang, Adam Gase. I'm just like, oh my goodness. So I mean, for me tomorrow, it's more from a watching with a dynasty eye, watching those young guys, Fant, Judy, those type of guys, and seeing how they perform. That's what I'm paying attention to tomorrow.
So just think about this though. Like we come up with and prepare, and come up with a couple things to talk about and talk for 90 minutes, and it feels like a long time. Those announcers for the Thursday night game are going to have to fill 3 hours worth of plus pregame and all that. Like, think about everything. They got to try and find storylines. They got to try and go back. And I mean, they got researchers who are devoting like hours of time on this. And what are they looking at? I mean, like, are they digging up stories on Brett Rippon's, high school career? Like, what are they?
That's exactly that's exactly what's going to happen, right?
Yeah,
you're gonna get everything about everybody's childhood. They're gonna go back to Sam Darnold when he was 3 years old.
Yeah, they're gonna talk about Frank Gore and his kid playing college. That's gonna be one to talk about. We should have a drinking game every time they mention that.
Man,
take a shot. I don't know. There's something there.
Well, the thing with Brett Ripken, let's give the guy a little bit of credit too. He was no slouch in college. With Boise State, he produced some pretty solid numbers that were comparable to some of the top quarterbacks that we see even in the game today right now. As far as completion percentage, passing, he was at Boise State. I'm just going to try and pull up the numbers here real quick, if I can, or if you wouldn't mind, Calvin, try and pull up the football reference for Brett Ripken and his college time at Boise. But he definitely. He came in. I was expecting him to do something more coming out of college and into the pros, based on what I had seen at Boise State. And he's one of those quarterbacks that when I was doing the pre-draft evaluation, I'm like, you know what? This is a guy I want to take a flyer on in a super flex kind of stash on my bench, stash on my taxi. I actually just let him go, I think, end of last year, just to make room for some other guys. But his numbers in college and what he was able to do there at Boise State are very comparable to some of the best quarterbacks who've played college football. Now, obviously, college numbers do not automatically translate to the professional level, but Calvin's looking at him right now and he's shaking his head, and he's like, you know what? These are some pretty impressive numbers.
Yeah, they really do. They look better than I was thinking. I mean, his senior year, especially, 67% completion percentage. 3,700 yards, 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's I didn't dig through to see exactly who he played against. I don't know what kind of level of competition he got right there in 2018 in Boise State. But yeah, look, if you ask a quarterback, what do you want your first matchup to be? It's the New York Jets. I mean, he's got the situation he wants to be in on a Thursday night on a short week. He really could. You know what? I'm getting more and more. The more we talk about this, the more excited I'm getting.
Well, you got to find something to root for in that game on Thursday night because it's going to be tough. I'm hoping, and I haven't seen it yet. What I want to see is the return of Philip Lindsay. That's what I'm looking for here. He hasn't played yet this year. If you're going to get a guy who's ready to come back, I don't know if he's.
Does he do that?
Ready to, I know he was moving towards that. I don't know if he's going to come back in this game because it is the Jets, and they may just try and hold him off for one more week. I'm trying to find some information on Philip Lindsay right now. I know he's questionable. He's a game day call Thursday. It's the last thing I got, and he's officially questionable for Thursday Night Football. I want to see him get back in there. Last time we saw him, it was for a very brief week 1 versus the Titans, where he had 7 carries for 24 yards, a catch for 11 yards. Philip Lindsay is like my favorite running back in the National Football League, just because when they signed Melvin Gordon, he said, "Nah, Gordon ain't taking shit from me." You know what I mean? Like he wants to be the man, and I want to see Philip Lindsay have that success because he's gambling on himself.
I like it.
Yeah. Philip Lindsay, his health, him coming back, that's what I'm watching for in this game. And you know what? I think Denver gets up early. I think they rely on that run game. I think we're going to see Melvin Gordon. We're going to see Philip Lindsay if he's back. We're going to see Royce Freeman. And maybe if we're lucky, maybe we'll get a glimpse, just a sliver of Blake Bortles. But that would make my Thursday night special.
Don't forget about Denver's leading reception getter and yardage leader receiving wise is
Tim Patrick?
Noah Fant.
Oh.
No
I thought you were
fan.
going to give me a little bit of Tim Patrick love, which, by the way, I think he's a good play this week, too. Yeah, let's stop talking. Last time we spent a lot of time talking about crap. Let's just keep moving along here. Another interesting matchup because the beard beat the stash in week 1. And then what's Russell Wilson's nickname right now? He's got some weird nickname, doesn't he? Like Mr. Yeah, whatever. You call him MVP. He ain't no Ryan Fitzpatrick. All I know is that. They have the same amount of career MVP votes, okay? So let's just go there right now. This should be an interesting matchup for me. Miami versus Seattle, because this screams Seattle in a runaway. But what happens every time we think a team is going to roll over Miami? Miami's that team where you think they have a chance to win, they get blown out. And if you count Miami out, that's the game they're going to end up finding a way to win. They've done this to the Patriots so many times in Miami. This game's also in Miami.
Right.
Not that there's fans involved or anything, but Seattle's going from the West Coast to the East Coast for this game. And they're going from north to south about as far as you could possibly travel in the National Football League. This feels like a trap game if I'm Seattle. This says I should win this game easily. But the travel behind this and counting out the Dolphins is like the last thing I ever want to do in a game, because Ryan Fitzpatrick is special. And I don't mean like MVP special, but he is that guy who could find a way just to make you miserable. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. What I'm looking for in this game is Seattle's defense bad, or have they just not faced the Dolphins yet? So they've had like some really tough matchups so far, and I'm going to be really curious to see if that pass defense shows up a little bit better. Right now, they've been really, really bad. One of the worst in the league at giving up fantasy points to wide receivers and quarterbacks, but they've just played some very tough teams. So now they get Ryan Fitzpatrick. Hey, could mean great things for Devontae Parker, for maybe Isaiah Ford, maybe Preston Williams, whose playing time was down. I'm a little worried about that. Myles Gaskin looks like he is actually everything that I wanted Matt Breida to be. So I'm kind of interested in Myles Gaskin. They never thought those words would come out of my mouth at all, ever. But yeah, I kind of like that. But I am worried about it. It stuck out to me, Dingus, that Seattle is traveling again all the way to the East Coast. And they did that with Carolina just 2 weeks ago. Or 3 weeks ago? And yeah, now they're going to Miami. So there is a lot. That's a lot of travel, a lot of mileage on that team, and I don't want to say for sure. I don't, like you said, I don't want to count on Miami, but you could have a little bit of a letdown on the Seattle side.
Like this screams to me Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf against the 25th ranked pass defense in the league. This should be like, we're going to eat. Russell Wilson is going to throw for 5 touchdowns. We're getting all hyped up. This sounds like something that's going to be incredibly special. And I just have that feeling that we're going to be let down in a major way. And on the flip side, when you talk about Seattle's defense, I think they're like 30th or 32nd even in pass defense right now. Now, that might be because their run defense is so good and they're getting ahead and teams are having to play pass the ball to play keep up, right? Seattle's scoring so many points, so you're trying to play point for point with them and pass the ball a lot. But this is one of those games I'm like, you know what? I think Preston Williams is the play here for the Miami Dolphins. I think I've been very disappointed in Preston Williams through 3 weeks right now. I think this is the week we see Preston Williams. It just got that feeling. I don't know what it is, but I feel that Seahawks fans could be in for disappointment this week. And Preston Williams is going to have a huge uptick in week 4. Roberto.
And I'm going with the Seahawks. I don't see a letdown happen. I know it's easy to say it. I think Russell Wilson is on a mission. Obviously, I think, Coach, you know the love I have for DK, who cost me a fantasy matchup last week. I lost by 5 points, and freaking DK with that damn touchdown. Oh my God. Anyways, Lockett and Metcalf, man, are proven to be some matchup nightmares for the opposing teams. And oh my God, I think Russell's just on a mission, man. They look good. Their defense, they've gone up against these past 3 weeks. I mean, they've gone up against some good offenses. What was it? Atlanta week 1. They can put up points. Obviously, they had the Cowboys last week. That's a talented offensive team. So those teams are going to put up points. The only one maybe is week 2. I think they played the Patriots.
It was Cam, yeah.
Yeah, and it was Cam. So I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact of the teams that they've been playing. I think their defense will be a little bit better. After the week that Ryan Fitzpatrick had, I think he's going to have a downer. I think he's due for a Ryan Fitzpatrick blow-up game where, he throws a couple picks and then Tua comes in, right? I think that's the way it works.
I don't even know if he's been tackled in practice yet, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Real quick, over to the Seattle side, just check to see Rashad Penny with Chris Carson a little bit banged up. Rashad Penny might be the kind of guy to, talk about Viper strikes. Look, I've never been a Rashad Penny guy, but he's got to be really cheap right now.
All right, I'm with Coach. Look at the nodding of the head.
If Chris Carson's out, is it going to be just all Carlos Hyde? No, it's not going to be all Carlos Hyde.
But that's the reason I think it's just going to be a pass-heavy attack again, and I have a feeling it's going to be another Russell Wilson 3, 4, maybe 5 TD game. I don't know.
Calvin, John Ross, Sammy Watkins, Rashad Penny.
All right. Is that your don't touch list?
That's my do not touch. Those are to use a quote I used the other night. I would not touch any of those 3 with a stolen dick. It ain't going to happen.
Fair enough.
And as you were saying, Calvin, go ahead. Just spit out the Penny thing. Go ahead, get it out.
That's it. Just it feels like he would be just super cheap to buy right now. It feels like it's like a penny stock. Look, if it goes up, great. If it doesn't, you lost a penny. It's not that big of a deal. So just one of those things. He might even be sitting on a lot of waiver wires right now. So
really, American penny. That's for like 5 cents up here, man.
That is true.
I'm keeping that shit.
That is true.
Anyway, the one thing I do like about that is you did mention Chris Carson. I want to see after he got Gator rolled where he's actually at. I hope it was more of a scare. We have some good positive news coming out of the Seahawks camp in regards to Chris Carson. Sounds like he's probably still going to be able to play this week, but we'll see how much they want to. If this game gets way out of control, he's probably going to take a back seat and kind of relax for a little while. So I'm kind of hesitant on starting Chris Carson this week, even though this would be a fantastic week to start him because, again, not only is Miami susceptible to the pass, they're also one of the bottom teams against the run. I think they're bottom 5 against the run as well. Speaking of favorite games this is probably Calvin's game of the week. Next, we're going to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cincinnati Bengals. Calvin, I know you have like a huge boner every time you talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm going to let you go here on this one.
Well, I'll just keep it really simple. First, James Robinson might be the RB1 this week. The Bengals have been terrible against the run. So that is he could absolutely follow up. And then you're going to start seeing him in people's legit top 10 dynasty running backs. And I think his value really could explode this week. he's already right now at a incredibly high level where you could sell him and probably almost definitely make a profit. I think after this week, he is absolutely going to be a sell high for me. I like James Robinson a lot. I don't know in Jacksonville he can sustain this forever.
After this week, he may surpass Barkley and Jonathan Taylor in ADP.
I will say he's looked really good. I will say that. I know Coach has been didn't you draft him when we were doing that when we had a little episode here and you were doing your online draft?
Oh, absolutely. I did James Robinson. I have more shares of James Robinson than is probably healthy for any individual to have. He is honestly, I did that the sticky board there for MFL, and I can't remember what the other one was, a combined sleeper as well. I have an unreasonable amount of James Robinson shares on my rosters right now, and I am loving it. And I got him so cheap, late in drafts, this and that. I wish I could tell you I'm smarter than everyone else, but it was one of those wild dart throws that, I love the kid's tape. I loved what I saw in college. I root for the guy. I'm putting him on every team I can. And I don't know if he's the next Priest Holmes or the next Arian Foster, undrafted free agent to superstar running back. But early on, it's looking pretty good for him. And this week, like Calvin said, the Bengals are weak against the run. I'm not 100% sure if Geno Atkins is back this week. Geno Atkins, if he returns, is a difference maker in the middle of that Bengals defense.
Yeah.
And he has missed 3 weeks in a row right now. So if he's back, he definitely changes the dynamic of that running game.
It does. And the Bengals have been, I think they're bottom 3 in rush defense so far. But you're right. If Geno comes back, that's a different look on the defensive side. So especially up front.
Like I said, I do not know if he is. I haven't really seen any reports about him. My understanding is he just got his first practice since camp. He had a limited session today, if I'm not mistaken. But a limited session, if this is your first practice, it's Wednesday. You have a game on Sunday. You have no camp. I don't know if he's going to be conditioned to get back. And these are professional athletes. Let's not kid ourselves. They're in better condition than any one of us could ever be in at any point of our lives. I don't know if he's going to be ready this week, but I think by week 5, Geno Atkins is back, and that run defense in Cincinnati starts to turn it up a little bit.
Nope.
Just real quick on the other side, Joe Burrow is now second in total snaps behind only Dak Prescott, which is another offense that is just really, really humming right now and could continue to get better. But Cincinnati just continues to go out there. They want to lead the league in snaps. They want to push the ball. That's why I have a hard time getting rid of Joe Mixon and giving up on him, because I do think we've underestimated that. But one of the things I think I underestimated was how quickly that offensive line would gel by adding new pieces to it with the limited practices, 14 padded practices before this season, no preseason. I think that makes a big difference. So that's an offensive line that could gel together and look a lot better towards the end of the season than they've looked in the beginning. This isn't a bad matchup for him, although I can certainly understand if you're gun shy. I'm definitely playing James Robinson and some others over him. But Joe Burrow, T. Higgins emerging, Tyler Boyd is great. AJ Green's snaps went up, but his targets went down. And he was so inefficient before this week on his targets. I knew one of two things had to happen. His targets were going to go down or he was going to blow up. And I thought it was going to be the latter, but it was the former. His targets have, went down. Higgins, 9 targets last week. Got to start talking about him as one of the better rookie wide receivers in the league right now, with opportunities coming forward and an offense that's going to be out there and going to throw the ball a lot. So he's a guy that's rising pretty quickly in my ranking.
Okay, I'm taking a wait and see. I want to wait and actually see him do something before I move him out there. The opportunities are starting to come.
Touchdown?
He hasn't done nothing yet. Stop it. 1 week doesn't make anything. I want to see some consistency on it. I think the opportunities are going to be there, so we're going to see that consistency. 2 quick points here. Joe, I might be making up numbers here. You can take it what you want. I might be making up this fact right now myself. I think Andrew Luck has thrown, as a rookie, threw more passes than any other quarterback in the history. I think it was like 693. I think Joe Burrow right now is on pace for like 725 through 3 weeks. Something to keep an eye on. Kind of touches base with what you just said in regards to they want to get those snaps in. Number 2, I'm not touching anything other than James Robinson in this Jacksonville offense until DJ Chark is ready to step back in the lineup.
Same.
This offense, Chris Conley, Chris Groppoli, whatever you want to call him, he looked bad. Gardner Minshew's going to lose trust in these wide receivers. He needs DJ Chark to come back. Once you lose your number 1, there's not a viable number 2 option on that Jaguars passing team offense outside of James Robinson and Chris Thompson. Those guys were funneling all the offense through them in the passing game last week in Miami. So unless DJ Chark's in the lineup, I ain't starting Gardner Minshew, no matter what, no matter how bad Cincinnati is. So just something to keep an eye on. He was limited in practice again to start the week. He's limited right now. Something to keep an eye on as we go forward.
And I really think the Bengals are I think we're going to see one of those games where they blow up, like meaning going off. Burrow, well, from what I've seen, man, I think he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. The accuracy, I mean, just, we talk about the it factor. Every time I watch that kid, man, I'm just like that. Whatever the it factor is, I feel like he has it.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that offense is just, they're working through some things right now. But I think eventually we're going to have one of those games where we sit there and like, damn, like, holy, like Burrow's going to put it all together. What drives me insane still with them is the usage of like Joe Mixon, right? I don't get like
in the passing game, especially.
He's a good receiving running back. Everything shows you that, but I don't get the insistence on Gio Bernard
Officer Thorny.
All those snaps from him when it comes to third down situations. It drives me insane. And it's like you pay the guy all this money, and then in the fourth quarter, if your team is down, you're running Gio out there every damn play. And oh my God, don't get me. See, I'm getting upset. Let me calm down.
So let's bring this chill to an interesting matchup here. I don't know if this game is getting played on Sunday. I don't know if this game is getting played on Monday. I don't even know if it's going to get played on Tuesday right now. And I'm talking about the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. We had 3 players and 5 personnel test positive for COVID in Tennessee. They played the Vikings last week. And right now, as far as I can understand, there's been no positive tests from Minnesota. The league is probably going to take their extra precaution. This game is going to get moved to at least Monday, potentially Tuesday, which creates some interesting drama in your leagues and your waiver wires. Because if this game is played on Tuesday, it would still count for week 4 in your standings. However, some people have waivers that take place on Tuesdays. So MFL has not announced anything. So I don't know about Sleeper, Fantrax, ESPN, Yahoo, NFL.com. I don't know if anyone's said what they're going to do on this situation. But if you have waivers that for whatever reason take place at midnight Eastern, and they're playing the late game on Tuesday, playing a game on Tuesday night that's going to push itself into, say, that midnight Eastern time zone. Like there's some things that as commissioners we need to really take a look at. Now my waivers and 90% of my leagues run on Wednesdays, but I do have some leagues that I'm in that have waivers on Tuesdays. So something definitely worth to take a look at. And if this game can't be played on Tuesday, this will become both Pittsburgh and Tennessee's bye week. Now here's the kicker: if this game gets moved to Tuesday temporarily, but all of a sudden come Tuesday or Monday night, decide that, you know what, we're postponing this game till week 10. Do you start your James Connors, your Juju Smith-Schusters this week? Do you start your Derrick Henrys this week and risk them not playing that game on Tuesday? What say you, Dingus' oldest son?
I do not, if I can help it. And now, I think one of the things is if you've got a guy like James Conner, you may not have a better option. I mean, it may just be one of those where, like, if I'm choosing between playing James Conner or Royce Freeman or something like that, like, I'm not playing Royce Freeman. You know, if you waited too long at running back, and maybe you got to roll the dice. But I absolutely am. I'm scared of this. I'm worried about what they're going to do. They could leave you with a 0. I think they're going to be motivated to play the game, but it may be later, and they may just get to a point where they just say, you know what, the criticism that we could face for playing this game is just too great. So, you know, I think the NFL is, so far, it seems like they've done a good job. This is the first time we've had anything like this, but I'm definitely worried about it. I'm nervous about it. If you've got anything that resembles a better option, look, for Derrick Henry, you might want to be looking at another option anyway. I mean, Pittsburgh is a really tough defense. So this might be the reason that you need to slot somebody else into your lineup. I'm worried about what they're going to end up doing. Maybe they play it and maybe the guy goes off. But I think if you got anything resembling an option that you think is 75% of one of those options, you play him.
Roberto?
I agree with Calvin. Dingus' oldest son. I mean, I wouldn't risk it if you can help it. If you got better options, if you got somebody that's reasonably close, you ride with them. I mean, I wouldn't want to deal with this situation. I have one league where I'm gonna have to make a decision. It's a super flex league, and I got Tannehill as my second quarterback. So, I got some decisions to make on that one. But yeah, if you got anybody reasonably close, I mean, you rather take for sure points over a possible 0. So I think they'll get it in. I know last I had heard was a report that they were planning on Monday, but we know that can possibly change. So
yeah, and that's one of my biggest concerns. I want to take this a little bit further. If they pull this game and move it to another week, is week 4 too early for a team to have their bye week? I know week 5 we start to see Detroit going on a bye in week 5, but week 4 to go from week 4 on through the rest of the season, is that too early for your fantasy studs to have a break? Like, I know, personally, I like that week 8, week 9 bye to kind of break it up. You know, they go hard. They get a rest period after week 8. Not too many players should be banged up by week 4 after only 3 weeks of action, as compared to how banged up they're going to be come week 8 or week 9 of the season. So is a week 4 bye almost too early?
I think probably not. I think we've seen it before. I have to go back and look. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember being really worried about a Saints early bye one year, and it was a year that they ended up doing really well. Maybe you start to look at their wear and tear towards the end of the season, but I don't know. This has been a weird year. It almost would be like, hey, they got to have 3 preseason games, and now they get a little bit of a break, and they get to go into the regular season or something, you know. So it might not be. I'm not sure I'd be downgrading anybody based on it.
I do agree that I'm the one that likes bye weeks a little bit later in the year. I hate early bye weeks. You hear all these players say it all the time. Oh man. You know, I know with this sport, you're always going to be banged up, right? All these players always say they're never 100%. But I'm sure the bye week does help, you know, those bruises heal up a little bit. So yeah, I prefer that I wouldn't downgrade anybody. But my preference would be that a bye week isn't in week 4 versus a week 8, week 9, week 10. I mean, that would be my preference. But like Calvin said, I still not. If they end up having their bye week this week, I'm not going to downgrade anybody.
No, I just thought it was like a little interesting tidbit that I don't think we were thinking about until just a second.
Yeah.
So,
hey, speaking of downgrading, though, is there any chance that you're looking at downgrading Juju Smith-Schuster right now? Because as I'm kind of digging into his numbers, I'm not saying I'm like crazy word, but I feel like we've seen his best season already. If he's going to continue to go on the trends that he is, he's got 4 more targets right now than James Washington. Deontay Johnson missed almost the whole game last week, and he's still shy 6 targets of him. Eric Ebron's within 5 targets of him. Like it just is a weird. He's got 3 touchdowns, and that's kind of saving him. But it's just like his usage and even his snap percentage was down this past week a little bit. So I don't know. Some of his usage is just kind of making me a little worried, and not to the point where I think he's not going to be a wide receiver 2 or anything like that. I still think, but I just don't know that we are going to get that top 12, 15 guy that we kind of thought we were going to get.
So as the president of the anti-Juju fan club, I will say that he is a very good wide receiver 2 on your team. His biggest success came with Antonio Brown drawing most of the coverage. I don't think Juju is that guy that can do that. I think he's a very serviceable wide receiver. I do not like when Antonio Brown was taking that coverage, Juju was having success. Antonio Brown was still having success. Now Juju is the man, and you're seeing Deontay Johnson have some success, but we're not seeing that success other than you said it was very touchdown dependency of Juju right now. Mm-hmm. And I've always been on the fact I don't think Juju can be the man. And that's where I've always kind of believed that. I definitely believe he's a solid wide receiver, but I won't have him on my roster as a wide receiver 1. I'd feel my roster's weak if he's my wide receiver 1.
That's always been my stance on Juju. I actually wrote an article on him like a couple years back on Dynasty Vipers, where I was telling people where his value had peaked. I mean, he was going like pick 10. I think his ADP was like 10 in Dynasty leagues. And I was like, this is the time to sell him. You know, I was advocating that to anybody I knew. I was like, if you got him, sell him. I like the kid. I like his personality. I like him as a person. But everybody was down on Antonio Brown that year. You know, he still put up some good numbers. But Antonio was drawing all the top corners, was getting double covered. Juju was running everything from the slot against mediocre corners and was having success. And he's good. But I knew he wasn't that good, and exactly like Coach said, I didn't see him as a true number 1, and I still don't see him as a true number 1 to this day. I still didn't like where he was going in this year's drafts. I thought he was still going high. So, yeah, I've always been kind of off the Juju bandwagon per se.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of him.
I love Deontay.
Me too.
Yeah,
I think Deontay is a little underrated right now, but I think people are definitely warming up to Deontay now. I know a lot of people he was a sexy pick as a sleeper coming into the season, but now we're starting to see that that's starting to look the case. I'm not as big on him as some people, but I can see why people are getting on board because he is getting that one-on-one coverage with a cornerback too right now, while Juju is getting all the attention.
Well, you say that, but Juju is operating mostly out of the slot. I mean, it's like he's kept that role that he had when Antonio Brown was there, and Deontay is working. There's just a lot. There's a lot of crossing routes. There's a lot of like short underneath stuff. But look, there were two wide receivers that had double-digit targets the first 2 weeks, and that was Calvin Ridley and it was Deontay Johnson. The number's down to 1 now, but it's only because Deontay Johnson got hurt. I mean, he was involved in the offense early. They were trying to get the ball into his hands, and I'm excited. This extra little break actually might be pretty good for him, considering he's coming back from that concussion.
Yeah, I'd have to break down who he's been going up against, but with Juju being primarily in the slot, I mean, Deontay's I think being covered by the better corners. It's not like. I don't think it's comparable to Juju when he had Antonio Brown taking all the coverage away from him, and he was going up against the 3rd, 4th DB, sometimes linebackers in the slot. I mean, completely different for me. I'm not saying Deontay's going to be a top tier wide receiver, but I'm much higher on Deontay than I ever was on Juju Smith, to be honest with you.
So one of the things I've always respected about how Bill Belichick runs a defense, when he wants to take out the number one option, he doesn't put his best player necessarily on that player. For example, I think if New England's playing Pittsburgh and they identify Juju as their guy, they're going to put their second-rated cornerback on, and they're going to put that safety over top as a bracket, and then they're going to leave their number one corner over on Deontay Johnson in this case. So Stephon Gilmore will be on Deontay Johnson, but Juju Smith would have whoever their number two corner is, plus that safety, Kyle Duggar, probably right over top of him, playing him almost like a bracket coverage so he can't get free in the secondary at all. So then you've eliminated two threats on the outside. And I think that's what teams are going to start doing or have been doing a little bit more of with Juju here. And you're going to see it a little bit more and more as the season goes on, in my opinion. At least that's what I would do. But speaking of teams that can't do that because they have no corners, we're moving over to Big D here. We're going to talk Cleveland Browns and Dallas Cowboys. The Browns secondary is decimated with injuries. Greedy Williams is not 100%. Denzel Ward showed up on the injury report. He may or may not play again. If you're playing the Dallas Cowboys, you need your corners to be ready to roll because Michael Gallup got on it last week finally. Amari Cooper was eating, and they've still got this rookie, CeeDee Lamb, that's ready for a breakout game eventually. And this Cleveland Brown week could be the week that he breaks out. I'll start with Roberto on this one.
And not only, I mean, you're talking about a breakout for CeeDee, and CeeDee's been pretty damn good so far. I mean, he's already had a game over 100. I think it was the second game. He's been pretty consistent. I think this is setting up potentially as a high-scoring game. I think I probably expressed that I'm not the biggest Baker Mayfield fan in here, but if there was ever a time for him to get on track, or have a good game, this is it. That's the reason I'm actually kind of high on OBJ this week. I know he hasn't started off the season the way he would have liked. I think that this is potentially a high-scoring game, and I think he'll get involved a lot more, probably a touchdown in this ball game. So we'll see how this one goes. But you're right. I think CeeDee, from all of them, I am waiting for that put me on the map game, and he hasn't had that one yet. Kind of a Justin Jefferson game of this past week.
Man, we're talking a lot of LSU. We talked Joe Burrow. You're bringing up Justin Jefferson after we just talked about DJ Chark. Like, oh boy, this show's turning stealth in a hurry.
Well, the only problem with the Browns clearly is that they're missing Grant Delpit. I mean, that's really what they need to bring that defense together. That's the problem. They're missing.
So the power of having this button here, I got the mute button, and whenever Kelvin starts talking about LSU, I'm just going to mute him.
Okay.
Let's try to get him to cuss me out there for a second.
So I'm going to go contrary to you guys a little bit here. My note is don't get cute with Baker and the wide receiver options in Cleveland. Just because, yes, Dallas has been very bad against the pass, but Jared Goff didn't have a great day against them. But then they Matt Ryan, and a lot of that was, in a very different situation. Matt Ryan was obviously very good in that game. He's got incredible wide receivers. The Seahawks, who just went out and had an unbelievable game against them, obviously. So, I look at this Dallas defense, and when I look at who they are, I don't know that they're as bad as their numbers say yet. And Cleveland does not want to pass the ball. They want to run the ball. They do not want to put the ball in Baker's hands. When you look at their wide receivers, you're looking at 6 or 7 targets, maybe at most. You're hoping for a touchdown. That is just they want to be the least pass-heavy team in the league if Kevin Stefanski can have anything to do with it. And I don't know how it's going to play. I do think there's going to be a lot of points, but I kind of think there's going to be a lot of points on one side of this game.
Well, I want to touch base here a little bit. Week 1, Malcolm Brown absolutely destroyed the Cowboys in the run game. Week 2, you got a little bit of Todd Gurley. He had a little bit of success, not a whole heck of a lot. Falcons, we won't even go with what happened there. Chris Carson, he scored double-digit fantasy points too last week, and he didn't even play every snap either. So this Dallas team, while yes, you can pass on them, and they do give up points. They've been giving up points in the running game, and with all due respect to Chris Carson, Todd Gurley, 2020 version of Todd Gurley, and Malcolm Brown, they're not quite in the same tier as either Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt, in my opinion. And I think we're going to see a Chubb pounding many holes this week. And we're going to see, I can't wait for the explosion on offense out of this one. So here's my thing. We're going to have a Chubb explosion in Big D.
Chubb is so darn good, man. I can't believe that people faded him. Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry, Calvin.
No, you're good. Look, let's just do like the debates. Like, hey, that obviously worked. Like, let's just all interrupt each other. We'll cut each other off.
Oh, I can do that. You know me well. I can interrupt anybody. Yeah. I can talk over anybody. Plus, I have the mute buttons. Trump would have loved having the mute button.
Oh, yeah.
I think the moderator needed the mute button, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield has only thrown 3 more passes than Justin Herbert this year. Just to put it in perspective of how little.
One more game.
Yeah, that's how little they want to throw the ball. So keep that in mind.
Tells you about all the trust they have in Baker, huh?
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's a lack of trust in Baker, or if that's just Stefanski's offense.
I think it's bad.
Yep. I think that's what it is.
No, you're right, though. I think part of it is the offense, but it leads me to the Chubb thing. I mean, I had people all off season that were just because of the Hunt, and especially when Kareem Hunt signed the extension, that were just so down on Nick Chubb. And I was like, look, man, regardless of Hunt signing, Chubb is a hell of a running back. Don't let that deter you. This kid he's special. I don't. And you're right. I think this sets up where he's gonna eat. Probably Kareem Hunt is gonna eat. I personally feel like it'll be a high scoring game regardless. Dallas is gonna make it into a high scoring game. I'm not saying that that's gonna lead to great points for Baker, but he's gonna be forced to throw it. Is what I'm saying. And that's the reason. Like for me, I'm targeting like from the receiving aspect for the Browns. I'm looking at OBJ. I'm like, this is probably your time to have that big game because it's gonna set up that way.
Right. I can see that.
Moving along to the Maryland and Washington, D.C. area, we have the Ravens and the Washington Football Club. This is going to be an interesting game for me. Again, I'm going to lean on this should be a blowout for Baltimore. But when you have, I don't want to call Lamar Jackson struggling, but he's definitely not producing to MVP levels. If Chase Young is ready to roll, I'm not saying Washington wins this game. Don't confuse this here. What I'm saying is Lamar Jackson has a tendency to find himself getting sacked. And when you have a front like Washington's, Lamar Jackson doesn't throw the ball that much to begin with, right? Is that a fair assessment? Lamar Jackson doesn't throw nearly as much as, say, a Deshaun Watson, a Patrick Mahomes. He's not quite there as far as how many times he threw Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, right?
Different type of quarterback, yeah.
Different type of quarterback.
He doesn't throw as much as Baker, for instance. Yeah, he
probably throws more than Baker.
No, he's got less pass attempts. That's not where his fantasy value comes from.
No, yeah. But Washington can get after the quarterback. Mm-hmm. They've got talent there. They've got Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Kerrigan, Ioannidis, Sweat, Chase Young. These guys know how to get after the quarterback. Week 1, they had 8 sacks. Lamar Jackson, if he's going to try and run, this is a team that could close that pocket in a hurry. And if you keep a mobile quarterback in the pocket and with no time, that is going to be an issue. Now, if Lamar Jackson has time in the pocket, he can make every pass there is. But if he's got no time in the pocket and no ability to escape because those edges are crashing in and they're containing him like we saw the Chiefs do, what the Chiefs did is they had Frank Clark containing him to the outside. He couldn't get to the outside. And Chris Jones just punched everyone in the mouth. 2 sacks, pushed that pocket right into Lamar Jackson. This is what Washington can do defensively. I'm not going to say Washington's going to be able to score on Baltimore, but this is definitely something I'm watching for in this game. What this Washington front is going, if they can make Lamar Jackson uncomfortable out there, that's what I'm watching for. And I think they can make him uncomfortable. I think Lamar Jackson can still find success, but it's going to be an interesting matchup, that front versus Lamar Jackson for me this week.
That's a good defensive front that they have. If it's healthy, it definitely changes how the game's going to go. I will say, I mean, Kansas City did a good job. I mean, but Lamar still rushed for 70, 80 yards, I think, in that ball game. So,
but your Marquise Brown didn't do much. Your Mark Andrews didn't do much.
Yeah, they didn't do much.
Mark Andrews killed me.
But that's the thing too, is like we're looking at Lamar. We're breaking down Lamar Jackson's overall game, fantasy wise, and it wasn't a great game for him. But it was a bad game for a lot of those. Mark Andrews was horrible in that ball game. I mean, I think he dropped a touchdown. He dropped a couple passes that were right there for him. Yeah. It could have been a much better day for Lamar Jackson, and it just didn't because those guys weren't making the plays. But I'll still give credit to KC. Like you said, they had a good game plan. They executed it for the most part. Washington, that defensive front is nasty. But if there's one thing to go in with the idea of, all right, we gotta keep him in the pocket. But Lamar Jackson is so damn good. I mean, his ability to escape out of the pocket when there is pressure, like I said, even with as good as a job as KC did, he still got out and made plays with his feet. And again, he should have had a much better day through the air. So, me personally, there's still Haskins on the other side. So I'm like, for me, this is still like you mentioned in the beginning. I don't see how this game is even close. I just feel like Baltimore is just going to destroy the Reds. I was about to say the Redskins. Sorry, the Washington football team. I don't think it's going to be close, and I think Lamar has a good day fantasy wise.
So I think Lamar's going to have a bad day.
Personally. Do you? Okay.
I do, because I'm just going to. And now again, none of these quarterbacks except maybe Kyler Murray are in that Lamar Jackson category. Week 1, Carson Wentz, 270 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. A lot of that was in garbage time. 2 interceptions and a fumble. So he didn't do so well there, right? Kyler Murray had the most success against this team. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, though, which, like I said, this is a comparable probably for Lamar Jackson. He still threw an interception. He only threw for 286 yards. I think Kyler's probably a better passer than Lamar is. But he only threw for 286 yards, and yet his points came in the run game for him. 67 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. You take those 2 rushing touchdowns away, now you're talking a different fantasy purposes here. Then you got Baker Mayfield, and it's Baker Mayfield. I know. But you're talking 156 yards passing, but 2 passing touchdowns. So I think Lamar's not.
And those touchdowns, they come. I think Chase Young got hurt. They lost some guys. Yeah, so he wasn't going up against them healthy either. So,
but what I'm saying is, we bringing this back to the front of the show. Why do you call him Jake Allen? Josh Allen is probably going to outperform Lamar Jackson again this week. I'm just throwing that out there.
I guess it's a hot take to say Lamar Jackson's going to have a good game after that, but I do think Kyler Murray's game matters to that. That was a really good fantasy performance. He put up 37 points. And then when you look at what they did, the only team that wants to outrush the Cleveland Browns is the Baltimore Ravens. And look what the Browns did to that front seven last week. I mean, yes, it's a good front seven. You got a team committed to the run, who knows how to run the ball, and Baltimore does too. So I don't know.
Who was their leading rusher last week?
Huh?
Who was their leading rusher amongst running backs last week? I know the answer.
Wasn't it for Baltimore?
Yeah.
Wasn't it Ingram?
For Baltimore.
It was Ingram.
Oh.
Nope.
No, I know exactly who this is. It was Gus the
Oh
Buck.
no, it was Gus Edwards. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Gus Edwards. And
Yeah. Hey,
I
Gus
don't
Edwards
think-
looked good.
I don't think he even cracked 40 yards rushing.
No.
So
Although their
What-
usage, I would like to see Dobbins' usage go up.
what I'm trying to say is we always praise Baltimore for this vaunted rushing attack, but last week it wasn't there. Now, I don't know if game script got away because they played catch up, but their passing game wasn't there either. It was Baltimore just was very poor on offense everywhere. But for the third week in a row, Gus Edwards led all Baltimore Ravens in yards per carry.
Well,
Hey,
I
what about that? J.K. Dobbins. So I'm going to give you an opportunity for a hot take here, Dingus, and see what you have to say here, Roberto. But J.K. Dobbins, okay, in a game where the game script got away, we think about J.K. Dobbins and we think, here's the guy that they're going to use and they're going to throw the ball to, right? He got 5 touches in a game where they got blown out. His usage, now look, his snaps went up, which was good. That was good to see, but still not even 40%. I said I thought he would be lucky to have 5 or 6 touches per week on average this season because Gus isn't going away. Ingram's not going away. And I also think that that's just the offense that they're going to run is not going to give a ton of opportunities to the running backs. Mark Ingram was sort of an anomaly last year. He was like the RB9 or 8, something like that, but he did it on so few touches. When I broke it down, it was one of the fewest touches in the last 5 years to be a top 12 running back. Everything is going to have to go right for Dobbins to be good. This is not a good start for him being, and it begs the question, a guy we talked about, James Robinson. If you have J.K. Dobbins and the guy offers you James Robinson for J.K. Dobbins, are you taking James Robinson over J.K. Dobbins?
No. And I will say, even though you're saying 5 touches, but what was it? He only got 1 rushing attempt in that ball game.
Yeah, that's
the 5 touches were 4 of them were. I think he went 4 for 40. I don't know, through the air, receiving. I mean, I knew with Ingram there that the amount of touches was going to be hit or miss every damn week. But he makes something happen every time I see him get his hands on the ball, whether it be rushing or through the air. I don't know the rest of the season, but I still love Dobbins. If somebody, I'm taking Dobbins over Robinson. Sorry, coach. I am. Not happening. Not happening.
Hey, lots of people are wrong lots of the time, so I totally get it.
Oh man!
I think if we did rookie drafts right now, I would be really curious to see who was going higher. I mean, I think you can include Swift in there. Swift was just barely present this past week. I mean, look, I know you got to be patient with these guys, but it says something when a rookie goes out and is commanding his backfield the way James Robinson is, to the point that they got rid of Leonard Fournette. I mean, that's part of this too. Like, he was so impressive that they got rid of him. So that's not happening in Baltimore. Baltimore is not getting rid of not only Mark Ingram, but Gus Edwards is taking on a bigger role in this offense.
Isn't Ingram a free agent after this year?
No, but he can be cut and could become one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with Baltimore, I kind of, when he got drafted into that situation, I kind of had a feeling everybody knew that, look, the amount of touches that Dobbins was going to get wasn't going to be great. He wasn't going into a backfield that it was going to be like, here's the keys to it. You're our guy. Because you had Ingram there, and Ingram and that team had a hell of a year last year. So you knew that this was going to be the case. The DeAndre Swift thing is a little more curious because I just think he's better than Kerryon. Obviously, Adrian Peterson threw a wrench into those plans. I know Swift, they weren't happy because he got hurt and he didn't – the amount of camp that they had, he missed a lot. So they were saying that he was really behind. So I think that might have hurt him. I think Swift has an opportunity to probably take that backfield as we get closer to the end of the season. The Dobbins one, I was fully prepared for this to be the situation. because it was a Super Bowl contending team. They're not going to give the keys to the rookie, especially when they had a guy already that worked well with what they had within the system. So the results right now aren't shocking for me when it comes to Dobbins.
So, Calvin, I don't know if you got the numbers in front of you here. Can you please read me, for fantasy purposes, the top 4 rookie running backs? I've got mine here, but my scoring may be a little bit different. But I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Edward Elaire, number 1.
No, he is not number 1.
He's not number 1?
Go ahead. If you got it right there, go ahead.
What I got here right now, mine might be a little bit different than depending on how to. This is a PPR, 6 points per touchdown type league. Number 1 rookie running back is none other than James Robinson.
What a
through
shot.
3 weeks. 3 touchdowns. Big difference maker right there. Clyde Edwards-Helaire may have more rushing yards, but James Robinson actually has the touchdowns to back everything up right now. He's got 3 touchdowns in the running game right now. He has 10 receptions for 129 yards, 43 carries for 210. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has 55 carries for 240, 11 catches for 102. So James Robinson is the pass-catching back to own amongst rookies. After we all smoked the you-know-what for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Jonathan Taylor is number 3. Jonathan Taylor has 48 carries for 182, 9 catches for 79, and 2 touchdowns, which boosts him up a little bit. Let's see who that for number 4 amongst running backs is none other than Antonio Gibson.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Number 5 amongst running backs, Josh Kelly. Oh, there he is, Dobbins, number 6.
Don't say it like that.
James Robinson is the number 6 running back in PPR right now in the entire league.
He's been good.
I told you. We're going to be talking about him, Jonathan Taylor, and Saquon Barkley in ADP conversations this time next year.
Well, the curious thing with Jonathan Taylor is when it comes to like a PPR format, the majority of those catches came in week 1 when he wasn't the primary ball carrier. So it's funny, the last 2 weeks, what is it? I think a total of 2 catches for him. So he's not 2 or 3 catches, hasn't really been involved in the passing game. And that was my fear. And I know that's the reason you got to keep Nyheim Hines still in that picture, is if Taylor takes the role of Marlon Mack with just the rushing attempts, it looks like they're not really going to make him the receiving back, the full 3-down back, which is a little concerning, at least for this year.
Yeah. So those are some pretty interesting numbers there when we're talking about. We kind of got away from the whole Ravens versus Washington.
Yeah. It became a James Robinson love fest.
Yeah,
that's what the show's all about. Let's be honest.
And Mitch Trubisky
and Mitch.
Yeah.
Sorry, my waivers are processing right now, so I'm just checking in on some things. Man, you know what? The problem being in 42 leagues like I'm in right now is I miss waivers like 90% of the time. I don't even know what's going on.
I am in 11 leagues, and it's driving me absolutely insane.
Yeah, I'm in 17. That's too many.
Way too many. I can't keep track of this shit.
Yeah, guys sent me a trade offer today, and I'm like, I just don't know that I even have the energy to go look at it. Like, I need to go and I need to respond, but I'm just like, I have to remind myself of the scoring, remind myself of am I competing? Am I not? I don't know.
You know what it is when you got the group me thing going and you're involved, you got 11 leagues and all of them have a group me chat going, and then somebody doesn't say what league they're from. They're like, hey, you interested in this? And I'm like, what league are you even talking about, my guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
You got to be more specific.
You know what? I would be happy if all my leagues were in one group me. I've got, group me. I've got WhatsApp. I've got the Voxer. I got the Slack chat going on. Like, I got as many different communication apps as I have leagues. Like every league has their own special thing. I can't even keep track. I'm just. And then of course someone needs we need someone to roster a team for us this year. Like whatever, put my name down. I'll look after it, I guess.
And I can't even imagine you saying 40 if that's accurate. If you do have 40, you saying 17, especially this year with the amount of injuries.
Oh,
with my 11, I got teams that are just they've been brutalized by the injury bug. I mean, IR spots. So having to go through the lineup constantly, I'm forgetting who's who, where, and I'm like having to go through. I'm like, oh damn, he's out and he's out, and I'm like, oh, shit. Then you got to go through the waiver wire. I'm ready to call it quits, man.
Oh yeah, I made a spreadsheet. I did it all by myself too, so I can do my homework. A spreadsheet that tells me what my waivers are, but now I can't find the spreadsheet where I put it. So I don't know. I have to try and see if I saved it, which I probably didn't. Speaking of not saving anything, we're talking about the Bears now and the Colts.
Woo!
Obviously, the Bears were not saving any of their offense for Mitch Trubisky in Week 3. They were saving it all for Big Dick Nick to take control, which I have a problem with, by the way. But I'm not a Bears fan here. I'm a Trubisky fan. We're going to turn this one right over to Roberto. Week 4, Colts Bears. What are you looking for?
Oh man, well, I think I mentioned that earlier in the show. I'm curious to see the difference in how the offense is going to be run. They've been a little more run heavy when Trubisky was in there. I think they're going to be a little more pass happy. I think you're going to see what Nagy really wants to run offensively. You're going to see that now with Nick Foles in there. So I want to see the usage of A-Rob. You know he's going to get his targets. He's going to get his looks. But Anthony Miller, does this change the role of guys like Javon Wims, Cole Kmet? I mean, I'm not sure. But that's what I'm interested in seeing. One of the things I think one of the things that you saw from the last game, looking at the press conferences afterwards, after the game against the Atlanta Falcons, and this is where Mitch struggled with, right? And it's something that Nick Foles knows as a veteran. So Mitch would never change. He didn't know how to get out of a certain play. You know, I just think he had a tough time reading defenses. So that game-winning play to Anthony Miller last week against the Falcons, after they broke the huddle, Nick Foles told Anthony Miller where he was going to throw the ball. And he told Anthony Miller, get to the L, which that's their own little lingo. And Anthony Miller knew, and he's like, the ball's going to be there. That's something that would have never happened with Mitch. So it's just the ability of understanding what you thought what you thought the defense was going to be in, what coverage they were going to be in. The fact that he knew right off as soon as they broke the huddle, it was, I'll be at this spot. I'm going to throw it here. Let's see what the hell happens. That's just something that would have never happened with Mitch. So I think Nagy's going to have a lot more trust in Nick Foles. And I just want to see how different that offense is going to look. I think it's going to look a lot different. I think it's going to be a little more pass heavy.
I'm going to speak up now because I'm just going to ignore Calvin because he decided to walk off. We talked about this. Roberto's on with us with Chev, and the one thing I pointed out in our preview show was the return of the king, Akeem Hicks, in the center of that Bears defense. And boy, has he been impressive early on for 3 weeks. Like, he is a man possessed right now. So now, that's just a humble little victory lap there real quick. Now the thing I want to look for is the first couple weeks, Danny Trevathan's usage. It looked like the Bears are going more of a 3 safety look on defense, meaning they were resting Trevathan. And in the IDP community, a lot of people were very down on Trevathan, dropping him flat out, even in deeper leagues. And I was on the IDP Lounge, the other show I kind of join every once a week. Actually, I think Calvin's actually been on probably more than me. I'm supposed to be one of the chairs there. We got in a bit of a heated argument over Danny Trevathan and his usage because he saw like a 49% snap count in week 2 and didn't really produce. And then last week he had 4 tackles, assist. I think his snaps went up. And I kind of made the argument, like, Like, it's 1 week now. Let's pump the brakes. He could have been injured. He could have been this. They're doing a lot of 3 safeties. If the Bears' offense begins to explode under Nick Foles into more of a passing offense in which they are leading in games, I think we could see – this is going to be interesting for guys like Danny Trevathan, because I don't know if they want to put him out there in pass coverage.
I think
they want to go with a 3 safety look. Whereas if they are trailing, I think you're going to see him more as teams try to run the ball on the Bears. So I'm very interested to see. We've seen what week 2 was. Week 3, there's a bit of a peak there in his usage. What is week 4 got in store for a player such as Danny Trevathan for the IDP enthusiasts?
And I will say real quick, he hasn't looked that good. And that kind of explains probably the usage. I'm not sure he's 100%, but then again, how many NFL players are ever 100%? But this isn't the guy I remember watching a couple years ago.
Even last year.
Yeah,
he's healthy.
He looks like he's laboring out there. Just the quickness that I used to see just is not there right now. So yeah, that's a scary one, because I feel like they need him to be as good of a defense as they can be to really reach their potential. But I'm not sure, man. He has not looked real good.
So I'm just gonna play the devil's advocate as much as anything here. Danny Trevathan suffered an injury late in last season, right? That's where he had his surgery. He had an injury late in 2019. No off season, no real training camp, no real time to get back up to speed. You may be 100% recovered from an injury, but you're not 100% until you've played with after you've healed up, right? So even though I'm 100% healed from that injury, I'm not 100% up to game speed, because I haven't played game speed. Now we're 3 weeks in. That should start to come. That game speed should start to come. I know when I've torn my bicep, even though I was 100%, it took me another 3-4 weeks to learn how to throw a baseball again, right? Because I would throw it, but I was afraid to get that extension when I threw. He may be afraid. He may not. How am I saying this here? He may not be 100% mentally recovered from the injury, and that may be what's slowing him down. It's something I'm curious to see how it's going to play out in week 4 here, especially against a team like the Colts who want to run the ball or play a short passing game.
And I'm definitely interested to see how he looks going forward. I mean, he just hasn't looked good. As bad as he's looked, though, Roquan Smith has looked fantastic. And I will say Jalen Johnson. I mean, I don't play IDP, but he looks like he's going to be a very good corner in this league for a long time, man. I mean, the footwork and he didn't have the greatest day against the Falcons with Ridley and all that, but there were moments where his coverage was outstanding. He broke up some passes. I think he's going to be a real good one. And it's funny, just talking about defense, like Khalil Mack may not have the numbers right now. I swear to you, as a Bears fan, I don't know if it's just the fanboy in me, but I swear that they can call holding on against Khalil Mack every damn play. It always feels like they are holding that man, but he's been insane so far to start the season. The numbers don't show it, the sack numbers and all that, but that dude has been incredible so far to start the season.
Speaking of incredible, I'm not even going to let Calvin touch on this game. In fact, I'm going to let him go to town on the next game here. The Saints and the Lions. I want to make sure I give Calvin a good time to talk about this matchup. Okay, go ahead. Give me your 2 cents on the Colts Bears first.
Yeah, I actually have way more to say about the Colts Bears than I do about the Saints Lions. I'll just make real quick bullet points on this. I think this is going to be an ugly game. I think we could be looking at a 6-3, 9-6 type game.
Oh, don't you dare!
No two teams have been.
Are you saying there's a possibility that Foles gets benched and Trubisky comes in and saves the day?
I am. So
you're not even calling for a touchdown for my Bears.
So Nobody has
No,
been.
he says you're going to get a touchdown, but you're going to miss the kick.
The extra point.
Nobody has been better against the pass this season than the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, but who have they played?
Well, they've played quarterbacks, believe it or not, who are as good or better than Nick Foles.
They played the Jets.
They did, which is Nick Foles worse than Sam Darnold? I'm not sure. We will probably find out. But don't forget, also Nick Foles, we know he's not better than Gardner Minshew. They played him as well. So Gardner Minshew better than Nick Foles. We found that out last season. So we know that he's going to have a tough time moving the ball. The team that's the second best against the pass is the Chicago Bears. So Phillip Rivers is by far the worst quarterback that they've faced. This could be an ugly game on both sides. And if the Colts can't even run the ball because Akeem Hicks is in there, I just don't even know what they're going to do. I kind of think Nyheim Hines could have another good game. He was back to the role that I thought, kind of confirming the 10 to 15 touches a game that they want to give him. Week 2, he had cramps. The broadcast mentioned that. I think that's why he was down. I think hang on to him. But PPR leagues, he could be good. I don't know that anybody finds the end zone. This could be a very ugly game. But I will say, I think David Montgomery is my favorite buy in the whole NFL right now because he's now going to have the full backfield to himself. This is going to be a tough matchup. After this week, this matchup doesn't go well. You may be able to buy him pretty cheap. And in matchups towards down the stretch, I won't go through all of them because that would take a lot of time here, but they actually look very, very good. He could be a guy that at the end of the season is rattling off really good RB2, RB1 numbers.
And I will say this. I mean, you're talking about the Colts and the Bears offense. I mean, Nick Foles is not the greatest, right? I understand that. I don't think the Colts have faced a team, though, that has the weapons that the Bears have. I mean, regardless, we can make fun of them with Mitch and all that, but Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, Jimmy Graham, big red zone target. I think David Montgomery's been pretty good so far this year. He hasn't been great, but they're still working with the offensive line. Cohen's gone. Huh?
Yeah, no Tariq.
No Tariq now. So I think, definitely the usage is going to go up for Monty a little bit. But remember, Nick Foles, the offense that they're running, this is what he's comfortable with. The last time he was I wouldn't say very good. I've never been the biggest Nick Foles guy, but he's always been comfortable when he was with the Eagles. And this is the same offense that he's running, very similar. He's got his offensive John DeFilippo. He has a history with him. And that his best season came, I believe, under DeFilippo. So with the weapons on the outside that they have, I'm not saying they're going to be a juggernaut offensively, but this is a guy that's going to get the passes where they need to be. And again, the Colts have not played. I mean, they played the Jaguars, and the Jags actually in week 1 put up some numbers against them, right? I know we said he's not as good as Minshew, but I don't think the Jaguars have the weapons offensively that the Bears have. And then week 3 you played. No, you come on. And then week 3,
Robinson. What more do you need?
Week 3, you played the Jets. I mean, come on.
Look, Roberto, sometimes you need friends to stop you. And
no, you know what? I'm calling it right here.
Are not a good offense. They're not a good offense. They're not.
Look at them.
They're playing defense. They're being smart. If they're going to win, that's why they're going to do it. Or they're going to have teams that drop the ball in the end zone or have epic collapses. I mean, there's been an interesting. It's not going to be because Nick Foles is going to.
I thought you would have raised your oldest son better, Coach. This is ridiculous.
There's always one rebelling. Moving along here, we just talked about great pass catching options. We talked about dropping the balls in the end zone. We have DeAndre Swift on one side dropping balls. We've got Alvin Kamara on the other side here, who would have been the wide receiver 4 last week if you take away all his running and touches. Alvin Kamara put up some insane numbers with Michael Thomas out. The offense clearly goes through Kamara in the Big Easy there. And I think this could be an interesting game. And I'm sorry, Calvin. I think the Lions take this one. I think the offensive firepower, Stafford, if he has Galladay back with Marvin Jones, it's going to give that defense very much difficulties, much like the Raiders gave the Saints defense. Except I think the difference is the Raiders defense may be better than perhaps what you're going to see with the Lions. And I still think Kamara is going to eat. There's no doubt about Kamara is going to see another 10 catches. He's going to see another 30-plus touches or 25-plus touches easy in this game. Breeze, I'm a little concerned, and we've talked about this. Is it time to give Taysom Hill? Is it time to give Jameis Winston a shot there? Because this is not the Drew Brees that we grew up with to watch here.
No,
this is Peyton Manning 2015 Brees action going on.
That is what I'm worried about. So we start with the Lions. I genuinely, literally cannot believe that they signed Adrian Peterson off the street a week before the season and gave him 22 carries against the Cardinals in week 3. How? Why does that happen? It's not like they were starving for running backs. I mean, they've got DeAndre Swift and they've got Kerryon Johnson, who are both genuinely good running backs. I don't understand. But nonetheless, the Adrian Peterson revenge tour continues. He got to enact revenge against the Arizona Cardinals last week. He gets the Saints this week. The Saints haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in a million years or whatever it is now. And it would be just like Adrian Peterson to be the one to break that streak. I honestly am sort of expecting that now. I think there's really good return for Kenny Galladay. I think he adds a great dynamic to that offense. TJ Hawkinson has looked a lot better than I gave him credit for. I need to move him up. But all that said, I think it's a trap game. I think there's going to be a lot of people putting money down on Detroit after what they did to the Cardinals last week. They look at the Saints. I think the Packers are going to do what they did to the Saints last week to a lot of teams. I think the Raiders have a good defense. I don't think things look quite as bad. I don't think things are quite as bad for the Saints as they have looked so far. Not having Michael Thomas hurts, but Traquan has looked fine. They do have Alvin Kamara, and I do think we start to see that defense put things together a little bit and look a little bit better than they have so far. But,
and is Thomas is he expected back? I forgot. I know he was questionable. I don't know.
I think he's out for at least one more week.
Oh,
I think he comes back potentially next week, but we'll see how that ankle feels.
Yeah, and it was a high ankle sprain for him, right? Always hate those.
I think you're looking more towards 5-6 weeks before we see a full healthy Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So I like I said, I don't have much to say about this. I think I like both Galladay. I like Marvin Jones. I like Adrian Peterson this week. I like Matt Stafford. I think this is a lot of good things for them. I love Kamara this week. He's about the only Saint I like. It's gonna be an interesting game. Looking forward to seeing some tears being shed after week 4. Now we're moving on.
I think it's your tears, Calvin.
We're going to move on to the rapid fire portion of the show now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games still to cover. And we want to try and do each one of these games in a minute or less.
Got it.
So we're going to go to Tampa here. 10 seconds or so. Quick little rundown on these games. I'll start with Calvin, then Roberto, and myself to close out each game. Chargers, Bucks, go.
Leonard Fournette might sit. That does not make Ronald Jones a good running back. Do not play him.
Roberto.
Wow. Well, with Godwin gone now for a little bit, it looks like ride the Mike Evans train.
Ride the Mike Evans train. Mike Evans is, last week.
2 catches, 2
Yeah, I don't even know what to make of that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know. Is that even a thing? Is that even possible? I'm sorry. I'm already going to blow the budget here on the.
Yeah, you did.
I'm trying to wrap my mind around 2 catches for Mike Evans of all people. We're not talking about Tyler Kroft here. We're not talking about a Will Disley here. We're talking Mike Evans, one of the best wide receivers in the game, getting only 2 catches, averaging 1 yard per catch and 2 touchdowns.
Got the touchdowns though.
So I'm just going to try and look up something real quick here because I want to touch base on the quarterback position real quick.
While you're looking it up, I'll just say the reason why is because all those targets started going to Gronk, and I think they started hearing all the chirps about Gronk's done. He's washed up. He had some funny kind of snide remarks in the press conferences leading up to it, and I think Brady, that's his buddy. I think he wanted to start peppering him with targets, and I think you're going to see some of that. I think those things will go back to normal, but I think he just wanted one game to say Gronk's not done.
Okay, so my point here is going to be the quarterback position of the Chargers. Tyrod Taylor has not been ruled out yet, but he has also not practiced, and Anthony Lynn has not named Justin Herbert his quarterback for Week 4 yet, which he will be.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think if Taylor's ready to go, he's going to start because they're scared of loss from.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and Anthony Lynn has already said Taylor's going to be the quarterback once he's healthy. Unfortunately for Herbert, he hasn't turned his opportunities into wins yet. He's looked good. He's been a great fantasy quarterback. Now, I think if the Chargers win both those games with Herbert, we're having a very different conversation. Anthony Lynn is going to have to take a long, deep look. But with Herbert being 0-2, he can justify to the fan base, if not himself, of going back to Tyrod Taylor. So
I think he's justifying attorneys. I think that's the most important people in the building right now.
Oh, exactly. Cardinals, Panthers, go.
Mike Davis.
Okay, we'll go Roberto. Mike Davis.
I'm riding Mike Davis, man. I mean, like you said, he's a poor man's CMC right now.
Calvin.
This is put up or shut up time for Kenyon Drake. I think, for the owners that invested in him, like this is where he needs to do something special here. Panthers are not good. They've given up a lot of points to running backs. Get him into your lineups. Andy Isabella, is he making this a real competition where Christian Kirk may not get near as much work as he going forward? Andy Isabella scored twice. He's got some talent. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out once Christian Kirk is healthy. If there is even such thing as a healthy Christian Kirk these days.
And I'm going to turn my attention to a wide receiver 1 versus wide receiver 3 comparison in Carolina, and it's Robbie Anderson as the wide receiver 1 and DJ Moore as the wide receiver 3. Will that script flip sooner than later? Because DJ Moore has been a bit of a disappointment, and obviously Robbie Anderson is putting up top 12 receiver numbers right now as we speak. Not what we envisioned ahead of the season. Let's see if that changes with Arizona this week. Vikings, Texans, Calvin.
I expect to see an angry Houston team coming into this week. They have had maybe the worst stretch that you can possibly give a team. They've had Kansas City, they've had Baltimore, they've had Pittsburgh. They now get Minnesota, who I kind of thought was going to have a pretty good defense. There's a lot of talent on that team, but clearly they have not played up to that. There is a lot of opportunity. I think Deshaun Watson is going to want to go out. I think they're going to want to score a lot of points. They're going to want to feed Fuller. They're going to want to feed Cooks. They're going to feed Cobb. I expect a lot of targets for those guys. And on the other side, let Dalvin cook.
Yeah, and for me, what I'm interested in seeing is the follow-up for Justin Jefferson. Dalvin's been he's been what he's expected to be, but I'm curious to see what Jefferson does coming off that big game last week.
And my storyline heading into this is, you say Texans are angry. I say they're going to be a desperate team. They're not quite as desperate to bring Earl. They were about to bring Earl Thomas into their team, but Earl Thomas said he wanted his brother to join in, and the Texans said, no, thank you. Yeah, Roberto got it.
Yeah. We don't do that here.
Calvin's going to have to Google it later.
No, I got it now. I'm a little slow, but I got it.
It's all right. All right. Rams, Giants. Roberto.
Oh, my God. Rams are going to just destroy them. Daniel Jones just helped the kid. That's all. That's all I got for that.
I think Darius Slayton is the number one wide receiver on his team. I think there's other targets there, but there's been a little bit of he's had some tough matchups, but I think Darius Slayton is still operating as the number one wide receiver on his team, and I think there's going to be some really good games coming as him and Daniel Jones get on the same page. They are replacing an offense. They've got brand new. Jason Garrett's going to want to throw the ball. They're going to get Devontae Freeman up to speed, and I think you're going to see a lot better things out of this offense, or else we really have to start looking at downgrading all of them.
I'm interested to see if Henderson can continue doing what he's doing with that backfield. It's Malcolm Brown, we talked about week 1, absolutely destroyed things. Cam Akers was looking good in week 2, giving his opportunity for his injury. Darrell Henderson absolutely looked like the Darrell Henderson we thought we were going to see when the Rams drafted him. So it begs the question here now, if Henderson can continue doing what he's doing, did the Rams waste a draft pick on Cam Akers? We thought they wasted a pick on Darrell Henderson last year, but that's what I want to keep seeing. I want to see how this backfield unfolds. And obviously the Giants are a good week to get your running game going. Perhaps even the real game of the week here, Patriots-Chiefs. Calvin.
I'm expecting a lower week out of the New England Patriots. I think Cam came back down to earth a little bit this last week and looked a little bit more human. Now he gets another really tough matchup. I mean, you saw what those guys just did to Lamar Jackson. Cam trying to run very similar things, like they're going to have trouble. The one thing I will say, here's a storyline to watch. Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels, after watching that game, does that give them a blueprint? Do they see something that they're going to learn? They're going to try to exploit after watching that game that the Baltimore Ravens could not quite get. So that's the main thing that I'm looking for in that game.
Yeah, the Belichick factor. See what he's able to come up with game plan wise against Mahomes. This will be a good test for Cam to see where he's at. I mean, you're going to have to put up points. I mean, KC's going to be tough to stop. One of the greatest offenses I've ever seen. Takes me back to the St. Louis Rams at a 99, greatest show on turf type squad. So we'll see if Cam can get that offense rolling, because they're going to need to score some points in this ball game.
I'm looking at the matchup inside the matchup here. You talk about Bill Belichick's defense versus that high-octane offense of Kansas City. I want to zero in on Travis Kelce versus Kyle Duggar. The Patriots drafted Duggar for this specific type of coverage assignment. He is that hybrid linebacker safety type player, just like Jeremy Chin, just like Isaiah Simmons. You draft this player to cover Travis Kelce. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic, he's fast. He's everything you want in that kind of player to cover a player of Travis Kelce's abilities. This is a matchup I want to see. I'm excited to see this matchup. Speaking of matchups I'm not as excited to see, Roberto, Bills, Raiders.
Oh, dear goodness. Yeah, well, you're expecting a loss. Well, who does Derek Carr have to throw to in this ball game? New Ruggs. I don't think Edwards. Obviously, you got Waller. Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. I think Buffalo goes in there and takes this ball game, and we'll see if Josh Allen just continues to do what he's been doing the past 3 weeks, and that's putting up numbers. So that's it.
Son?
There's some really good matchups coming up here for Devin Singletary and this Buffalo Bills offense, but they get really hard. In fact, one of the moves I'm trying to make right now in a couple of leagues is trading Devin Singletary for David Montgomery, seeing if I can flip him into that. That's my Viper move for the week.
I am interested. Are we getting Darren Waller versus the Saints? Or are we getting Darren Waller versus the Patriots? If we're getting Darren Waller versus the Saints, I don't think anyone can match up with him on that Bills defense. Whether that's Tre'Davious White, whether that's Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds, I don't see anyone matching up with Waller the same way that the Patriots were able to take him out. That said, no Ruggs, banged up Brian Edwards. You're looking at Nelson Aguilar and Zay Jones as your top wide receivers.
Hunter Renfro.
And Hunter Renfro. I love me some Hunter Renfro because I look better in a bathing suit than he does, which is fantastic. But this is what we're working with here, going against a very good Bills team, a very good Bills offense, a high-octane offense there, MVP quarterback. It's going to be an interesting game. It's going to test the Raiders' defense, see where they're at, and it's going to be interesting to see where the Bills are because this is a very comparable game for them because the Patriots just played the Raiders the week before, so it gives the Bills a little bit of a litmus test, I guess, where they stand with the Patriots in their division. Eagles, 49ers. Man, this game could be ugly. Roberto.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest thing is Carson Wentz. I'm not sure what's going on. He's looked very bad to start the season. So can they get on track? They're still not healthy offensively. They're still not healthy. So, and I'm not sure is Jimmy Garoppolo playing this game or it's another Mullins game?
It sounds like the Mullins game.
Yeah. So, but really for me, it's just a football fan and as a fantasy guy, I got Wentz in a couple spots and just want to see what's going on with him. I'm starting to get a little nervous with Carson.
I'll go here, Calvin. I'll let you pull up after. I've got a lot of Stafford and Wentz combined teams, and I've been running Stafford all season because I just can't trust Wentz. Wide receivers are banged up there. Arcega Whiteside hasn't done nothing. Jalen Reagor's hurt. Deshaun Jackson hasn't had that season that we were hoping for. Alshon Jeffrey's not there. Greg Ward. And Dallas Goedert just went down. He's out for a few weeks. They just signed Hakeem Butler as their tight end, not their wide receiver, their tight end off of Carolina's practice squad. And yet they still refuse to use Miles Sanders in the pass catching role. We want to talk. I'm going to go over my timeline here. I don't care. We talk about Joe Mixon not being used properly in Cincinnati. Miles Sanders not being used in the pass catching role with the Eagles with no wide receivers. Are you kidding me right now? Seriously, are you kidding me? He is their best pass catcher, and he's not being used in the passing game? Really?
Especially at the last season.
Man. Come on, man. There's no one else to throw the ball to, and you still won't throw it to Sanders. Really? You wonder why Wentz is struggling? Really? I can tell you why. Oh, by the way, Kittle's probably back this week. Calvin.
My storyline I'm going to watch in this one, it's kind of a chicken or the egg. Like, is Carson Wentz bad because his top target is Greg Ward? Or is Carson Wentz bad because he's targeting Greg Ward more than anybody else on his team? That is what I'm watching. I don't know which one of those two things are true. I am excited that it looks more likely we're going to see Jalen Hurts. I cannot wait for that experiment to happen. It's going to happen in Philly at some point. Doug Peterson wants Hurts on the field. I can't wait for that to happen. It is going to happen.
So I want to give you some insider information here. In one of my home leagues, my buddy got his balls busted so hard because it's a 2 QB league, and he took Jalen Hurts in the second round. His team is bad everywhere. Like, he could have used help at wide receiver. He could use help at tight end. He could have used help at running back. Many options out there. But he didn't have a first-round pick. So his first pick in the second round was used on Jalen Hurts. And if Jalen Hurts overtakes Carson Wentz as a starting quarterback of the Eagles, he's going to have the last laugh. And I'm here for that. I am here. I've got the receipts for this one. So, by the way, I don't want Carson Wentz to lose his job.
I don't either.
I kind of need him. But I also love watching the world burn, and I think this would be a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Last game of the week here, we're looking at Monday Night Football. Oh, Atlanta. You get the Packers this week. Good news is there's a good chance you're probably not blowing the lead in this one. Kelvin.
Start all your Packers. Start all your Falcons. Other than you, I don't know that you want to start Todd Gurley in this one. Can Brian Hill overtake Todd Gurley? I think I'm going to be watching for that. And I would love to see, like, in all honesty, the biggest thing I'm looking for is how does Atlanta come back from what they've done the 2 out of the first 3 weeks? How in the world do they come back? Do they have energy? Like, is this where they just are they going to roll over? Do they feel like they're fighting for Dan Quinn's job? Do they want Dan Quinn to even be the coach? I feel like there's no one that needs to be fired right now that's lost his team more than Dan Quinn. And do they just come out and roll over? The one person who has had double-digit targets all 3 weeks is Calvin Ridley. He's a stud.
I can't remember who said this. I'm bringing right back to the presidential debate. It was on Twitter. Someone said, please explain to me, in terms of football, what we just witnessed in the presidential debate. And someone actually went, this is like comparing Adam Gase and Dan Quinn talking coaching philosophies, is what you saw in the presidential debate. I can't remember. I'd give a shout out if I knew who it was. I saw it come around. I kind of chuckled there at that whole thing because what is Dan Quinn doing in Atlanta? What are the Falcons doing for Dan Quinn? They don't look like a team fighting for their coach, for one, because you've just witnessed games being blown. Is Julio going to play this week? We don't know. There hasn't been much indication whether he's in or out. If he's out, oh, man, it's Calvin Ridley, and it's Calvin Ridley only. I don't even know if I trust starting Matt Ryan right now because in the Scott's Dish Bowl, he had like negative 8.3 points because of the incompletion factor. But, yeah, Aaron Jones, this offense runs through Aaron Jones. Both the passing, the running game, everything that Aaron Jones can do. He's the second best running back on the Packers behind Jamal Williams, but, whatever. Aaron Jones is a stud. And the only reason I love Jamal Williams is because he loves mermaids and Frozen. And he's still my favorite guy to watch interviews of, so that won't ever change. But Aaron Jones, man, is there a better back right now in the National Football League than Aaron Jones? I think you can make an argument that Aaron Jones is the best back right now.
Over Kamara?
Yeah, I would give the edge slightly to Aaron Jones in this situation. I love Kamara. I love what he's doing. I love him in the passing game, but he's not quite getting it done in the running game that I would like. And I think that's because you don't have to respect the Saints passing game. I think you have to respect the Packers passing game, which means Aaron Jones is more effective as a running back than Kamara.
Yeah. Jones has been good, yeah.
Who is the number one running back in PPR right now? Is it Kamara or is it Aaron Jones?
Yeah.
It is Kamara in PPR?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I think it's Kamara.
He has 10 more points than Aaron Jones right now.
And that was all because of last week, probably. And, the
last
13
week.
or 14 receptions. But still, best running back to me right now is Aaron Jones.
As a Bears fan for this,
Robinson, of course.
Behind James Robinson.
As a Bears fan for this matchup, obviously Packers I'm gonna go to 4-0. So start all your Packers.
So you got to beat the Colts.
They are. Believe me, we got this.
9-6.
No, it's not going to be 9-6.
It's going to be 12-6 with 2 touchdowns and 2 missed kicks.
24-17 Bears. Mark it down. There you go. Mark it down.
I like what we just did when we went quick there. I think we need to do that.
I think that's the thing. We wrap it up in about 3 minutes per thing.
Yes.
And we kind of throw in some of those Viper strikes, but we don't give everyone the full article. You know what I'm saying? We throw a few little tidbits out there. But if you want some more of these Viper strikes in like point form that are going to come hit you hard, head over to DynastyVipers.com. Not yet, because I don't think Brad's had a chance to put it out there. But Kelvin does Viper strikes every week where he kind of breaks down a few matchups and he hits on some key things that he's looking for, kind of like what we were just looking for going through here in rapid fire. By the way, yeah, absolutely, because we're like 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I don't think anyone's watched for the last 2 hours. So
that's okay.
But we've been retweeted, so that's a good thing. People pretend to show some love there, so I appreciate that one way or the other.
No doubt.
I think my lazy eye's starting to kick in right now. It's been a long week at work. We're only at hump day right now, except for Calvin, who's now on Thursday. So,
Ooh,
are you guys both on Thursday yet? Are you guys Thursday yet?
2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Almost there.
Yeah, it's only 11 here, so I got time. I got another hour to kill. What are you guys up to? I'm just joking. So, yeah, you guys want to catch us here? Calvin and Hobby, RS Smooth, over at the Dynasty Vipers. Calvin, here's what's about 2 seconds here of your knowledge.
Just at Calvin Hobby. I don't know anything. I know nothing. I recommended Drew Sample last week. I know nothing.
He is right. He doesn't know anything. He actually does his homework. That's the thing, scary thing. Someone who doesn't do their homework, RS Smooth. Roberto, what do you got for people?
Never do homework. I'm bad at this. What I will leave with is Nick Foles, 2 touchdown passes on Sunday. Mark it down. Over 200 yards passing. I will gloat about it. I will talk about it. I will tweet about it. Everything. It's going to go down.
Can't wait to see
in a Bears win.
Can't wait to see Trubisky.
Okay, so, and all I got to say is catch me at Dingus 4, Matt Donnelly. Unlike Calvin, who gives 100% effort with only 70% results, I only give about 50% effort with 80% results. So just check that out. For Calvin, Roberto, again, I'm Dingus. This is Dynasty Vipers, episode 20 of the ViperCast, and I'm finding the end broadcast button, and we got